So our next group is SimpleQL, and they've built a really cool cloud database tool for developers. They've got some really awesome features that you should keep your eyes out for in their presentation. I do want to note that they use our curriculum's ORM extensively. We teach SQLize here, and we teach a Postgres database. But for this particular group, they also ventured into writing their own raw SQL in order to get the exact features that they wanted in their app. So this is SimpleQL.
Hello everyone, my name is Kilaya and these are my teammates Vinaya, Brenda and Monica, and we are excited to present SimpleQL. SimpleQL is a web-based application which allows users to define database schema. It also allows to upload and access data in the databases and interact with their databases without having to write a single line of code. Database schema visualization is an essential process during initial design phase, and our application will allow user to visualize the schema and also understand the relation between different tables. SimpleQL creates user databases on Amazon RDS, and it will allow user to store, fetch, and manipulate data. User can also utilize the same database for the application production, and that can be done via our API endpoints. So let's begin how to use our app, and here is Vinaya.
Thank you, Kelaya. Let's say Bob wants to use our SimpleQL. As she mentioned, we are using Amazon RDS in order to, create and store database. We use cloud storage because it's easy for the user since we are taking care of scalability, security, and administration. Bob wants to create a database company. Bob then creates a table employee with fields date of birth of type date, first name, and last name. Bob then creates another table department with field name. Oops, there's a mistake. So Bob can rename the table as well as rename the fields. Bob then decides to create a many-to-many relationship between employee and department. As expected, a joint table is created with the primary key being employee ID and department ID. Bob can remove the tables if he wants to remove the tables. We use SQLize in order to create tables. One of the challenges we faced was with renaming, dropping the tables, as well as creating associations, which is known as migrations. Although SQLize supported migrations through SQLize CLI, we went with raw SQL queries of PG library as it was more flexible. Now Brenda will walk you through some more features of SimpleQL.
Thanks, Vinaya. So now Bob has his tables. Great. What can he do next? SimpleQL gives Bob a few options. Let's say Bob wants to recreate his database schema locally. That's perfect because SimpleQL gives Bob downloadable SQL scripts to execute, and now he has his database locally and on the cloud. But let's say he doesn't need his database on locally. He is fine with it being on the cloud, but he wants to use his database to store and retrieve data. He can do that with SimpleQL by uploading files as CSV files, and after uploading those files, he can view them directly through our application. So now Bob can interact with his database through our application. But let's say he wants to access his database in his own application. He can do that as well with SimpleQL by us giving him an API key and a developer ID, which he can then use to access his database by making requests from an external source. Now here's Monica to talk about security.
Thanks, Brenda. Due to the nature of our application, security was a very big concern. One of our biggest concerns was dealing with the possibility of SQL injections. So SimpleQL takes care of that by not treating any user-provided input as a single source of truth. What that means is that any inputs for defining tables or creating databases are cleaned up so that users can't input any invalid names. And any references to pre-existing tables, pre-existing databases are validated in our system to make sure that the items actually do exist, and the found references are used rather than the user-provided inputs. Security was also a concern when allowing users access to their databases using our provided endpoints. SimpleQL allows users to make external requests to their database by providing their developer ID and a hash of their API key, their developer ID, and the current UTC time. SimpleQL then finds the API key that matches the developer ID that was provided upon request, and hashes it and checks to make sure that it matches the hashed API key that the user provided before allowing them any access to their databases. Now, users can upload, view, and store their data safely on SimpleQL. Thank you all for listening, and we invite you to create your own database on simpleql.tech.
Very nicely done. That's another one of my favorite types of projects where it's not only a tool for developers, but it's a lot of abstractions to think about, right? I'm sure at some point you have tables of people's tables, and just it really forces you to get your semantics correct in the project. So very well done.